touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. If you're watching the show, I'm in the top left corner. That's me. See, that's me waving. But thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Touring the AFC South. On this episode, it's a special episode. We want to talk about the NFL draft. There were some highs, there was definitely some lows, and there's everything in between as well. But I want to introduce the people that are on with me this episode. To my right, if you're watching, that would be repping Myth 10. That would be Mr. P. Shark. What's going on, man?
What to do, Mike? Appreciate the invite.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, down below me, if you're watching, he reps the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's going to hate me for that one. But anyway, the student of the game, Kyle Nash. What's going on, man?
Hey, listen, General, I've been accused of much worse. So, at least I'm there over in Jacksonville on a regular basis. I can deal with it.
All right. And last but certainly not least, diagonally across from me, all the way over on the left side of the country, but repping the team on the east side of the country. That would be Mr. C. Lou. What's going on, man?
What's good, Mike? Thanks for having me on, man.
All right, I did have some other jokes, man, but I'm gonna leave them alone. But but yeah. But
we know what they would cost. It would be 2 bits, right? Shaving a haircut. Anyways.
Yeah, he is kind of a different person today than he was the last couple of times we was on the show. But we'll talk about that another time. But of course, we want to talk about this NFL draft. We want to talk about more specifically the AFC South teams. That would be the Houston Texans. That would be the Indianapolis Colts. That would be the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. All teams had some great picks, and all teams had some picks that make you scratch your head and a few things that maybe didn't happen. But we'll see as we go along. But up first, of course, is the Houston Texans. Now, they did with the second pick what some people thought they would do and others thought they might not do. They actually drafted a quarterback. That would be Mr. C.J. Stroud from the Ohio State University. Yeah, I said the. I don't want to. I don't want all the Ohio State fans just getting mad at me because I didn't put the in front of Ohio. But anyway, the Ohio State is where C.J. Stroud is from. And to be honest, I think he's the most talented quarterback that's in this draft. Honestly, being the best quarterback and the most talented quarterback is two different things, in my opinion. So basically, I think he's the most talented quarterback with his arm, with all the things he can do. Of course, he did have a lot of great weapons, but that doesn't take away from his greatness on the field, in my opinion. But that was not the shocker of this first round for the Houston Texans. The shocker was that they traded. Let me get this right. Just want to make sure I've got all the information correct. They traded their number one pick, which is 12th. Their other number one pick is 12th overall. The 33rd pick, which is in the second round. The 2024 first round pick that they have, and a 2024 third round pick for the third overall pick, which happened to be Mr. Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama, which solves a major need for the Houston Texans at edge pass rusher. And, for those that don't know, Jerry Hughes led their team in sacks last year, and he's 135 years old. That's not good. That is not good at all. So I want to come right to you. Who am I coming to first? Kyle Nash. Let's go to you first. What do you think of those just immediate hits in this year's draft for the Houston Texans?
Absolutely amazing. First of all, you mentioned the defensive side there. You got a dude that's drinking Ensure, and now you got Will Anderson to ensure you're going to get some sacks. And you got starters when you're first. I could make an argument that the first 4 picks they have are starters at every spot. Yeah, maybe Tank Dell doesn't start at receiver, but he's going to be returning some kicks. Special teams is a thing too. I'll let Shark wax poetic on that when he gets to when we're talking some Texans. But overall, for me, I can make the argument that at least for the top of the draft, the Texans had the best draft, and we're having the best draft until Howie Roseman went all Eagles again later in the draft. But the Texans, listen, the Bill O'Brien trying to do things in the front office era is gone clearly, and you have to like what's going on here. I'm not here to say that they're going to do anything silly like win the division or anything like that, but these fans deserve any sort of increased wins or anything like that. But I'm happy with what they did overall. Immediate starters and impact, addressing need. I mean, they had a lot of needs, so really you could throw a stone and hit a need. But yeah, this might be the best Texans draft. It could shake out. We really don't know these answers for years, but this could shake out to be the best Texans draft in history.
Well, could be. You're correct. Let me just give everyone the lay of the land in terms of their draft. Round 3, they drafted Tank Dell, wide receiver from Houston. Round 4, that would be Dylan Horton, defensive end from TCU. Let's see. Round 5, Henry Tuotuo from Alabama. Yeah, I probably butchered his name, but he used to play at Tennessee at one point, and then he transferred to Alabama to play. Okay, and of course, his best friend on the team in Alabama was Christian Harris, who is also a linebacker for the Houston Texans. Now, let's see, you've got Jarrett Patterson, a center from Notre Dame, which they need help there. You've got Xavier Hutchinson, wide receiver from Iowa State. And to round it all out, you have Brandon Hill, defensive back from Pittsburgh. So it'll be interesting to see how many of those guys make an immediate impact. What do you all think is I'm going to ask I'm going to start with you, Pete Sharp. Any of those guys you think can make an immediate impact that weren't within those first two, like a CJ Stroud or a Will Anderson Jr.?
Tank Dell jumps off immediately to my attention because I don't know who they have for wide receiver, so they kind of have no choice but to get some production out of him immediately. And like Al said, they need everything. So a lot of these players might be playing this year for real, but Tank Dell jumps off immediately because they traded Brandon Cooks, Chris Moore, the guy that signed with the Titans. He's gone. I guess they got the guy from Alabama that was hurt last year. I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah, my mind is like going blank, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
John Mechie.
Yep.
John
Mechie.
Yep.
So Tank Dell. They'll need Tank Dell to do something this year because I can't name another receiver outside of Mechie on their roster.
Yeah, I hear you there. It's just, it's kind of rough sledding with the guys they did have there. Wanted to come to you, C. Lou. What do you think is the most questionable pick they had of any of the picks? There's hard to find some questionable ones because I know they need a lot of everything. But what do you find probably the most questionable one of the picks that they had?
I mean, really, it would be double dipping at center. You take Jared Patterson. Well, you take Scruggs, in the second round, which that was surprising to me too. But you take Scruggs in the second round, and then you go back to the well at center with Jared Patterson in the sixth. To me, that's questionable. But I do know Patterson can also play some guard, so you add a little bit of depth there. But that's really the only questionable pick I had for the Houston Texans because it's like, why are you double dipping at center? But also, why did you take Juice that early? I didn't think he should have went that early, but.
Maybe they thought they were needing to refresh and get some orange juice or something of that nature. I don't know, but or apple juice or something like that. I don't know. Just throwing something out there. Maybe that's what they were thinking. Maybe that's what Nick Caserio was thinking. I don't know. Even though I did miss that. They did draft Juice Scruggs in the second round. I did miss that one. My bad. But as far as their draft, anyone have any overall thoughts? I'm going to come straight to you, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, sure, maybe Juice may have been a bit of a reach. I see where Silu's coming from there, and we'll put it this way. There are plenty of teams out there that have criticized picks throughout history that turn out going well, and Juice may be that guy. Listen, with the way that O-line has been, they managed to secure Laramie Tunsil again, so that's a good thing. But at the end of the day, they have so many holes up there. Like I said earlier, I feel like Juice could have a chance to be an impact player, a starter of some sort. Whether he's the center or he gets kicked to guard is a whole other question. But that's my statement. They have a lot of guys here. If I were to throw it at the dartboard, like what are we talking with total picks here? 12 total picks. Half of them may see significant time on the field, right? That is an amazing ratio if you're drafting.
Right. You're right. Now, I'm gonna get quick answers from everyone. What would you give them in terms of a grade? I give them an A, to be honest, or I get A minus just for the double dipping, like Silu mentioned. But what grade would you any of y'all give if you have a grade to give them?
Same. I get him an A. I mean, when you trade up and get Will Anderson and CJ Stroud, arguably the two best players in the draft, that's automatic A.
There we
Yeah,
go.
I'm
Kyle.
right there with you.
Sure, yeah. I mean, you weigh the top of the draft and what they did. Sharks right there with an A, and even the rest of it with what they had down the line. I can see an argument for an A plus, but I'm going to go A for now, simply on the strength of I'm not sure with what they're thinking with some of it. But who knows? Maybe a year or two later, we'll be looking at this. Why didn't we all say A plus? What were we thinking? So, but yeah, definitely
Right.
an A draft, no question.
Right. I hear you there. But of course, we can't stop the draft there. There is more. All right. That would be the Indianapolis Colts. They're up next. They had an issue at quarterback as well. They weren't going to go back to Mr. Matt Ryan again. And of course, they have they have picked up quarterback after quarterback after quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. I know CeeLou's tired of hearing that, but I know the Indianapolis Colts fans are too. And now they don't have to really hear that anymore because the Colts drafted Anthony Richardson, number 4 overall. Now, there was some questions. Some thought maybe they would draft somebody different, a particular gentleman that we'll talk about later, but they ended up drafting the most intriguing quarterback in the draft. Now I'm going to come straight to you, CeeLou. When they drafted him, what were your first thoughts and feelings about that pick?
So I was actually on Zoom for a draft, like a draft watch party type thing. And I ain't gonna lie to you, from like the first to our pick was in, my hands were shaking. I was nervous because Anthony was the one that I wanted. If we wasn't getting CJ, then I wanted Anthony Richardson. So I was happy with it. I was ecstatic, especially to come to find out that he was always their guy. Like that was the quarterback that they wanted, especially with adding Shane Steichen as our new head coach. That was the quarterback they wanted to kind of replicate what they did last year with Jalen Hurts, or over the past 2 years with Jalen Hurts. So I was happy, man, to get probably the most athletic quarterback of all time, probably one of the greatest athletes of all time, from his performance at the combine and just, everything that we see that he can do at his size at 6'4", 240. Like, it doesn't make no sense. So I was happy with that, and especially with the monster arm that he has. He has to learn how to feather the clutch a little bit on that arm. But if he can figure that out, then, the sky's the limit with Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, definitely a talented man. And the thing I mentioned, or I've heard mentioned a lot about him, is his arm. And people talk about his accuracy. Well, they might not have watched the video, but a lot of receivers that were catching his passes, the ball went through their hands a lot. So it wasn't necessarily that he wasn't hitting wide receivers. It's just wide receivers weren't making the catches. That's what I saw. But I want to go through the rest of the picks for the Indianapolis Colts. Started with round 2. Julius Brents, cornerback, Kansas State. Round 3, Josh Downs, wide receiver, North Carolina. I know somebody's got some thoughts on him. Round 4, 106, Blake Freeland, offensive tackle, BYU. Round 4 again. I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to pronounce the name. I don't want
Just
to
call him Double A. Just call him Double A.
All right, we're gonna call him Double A. We're gonna go with Double A.
Or Tommy, because that's what everybody been calling him, is Tommy.
We're gonna go with Double A. Defensive
name.
lineman from Northwestern. We're gonna call him Double A.
A
All right.
Depo.
No, don't even do it. Don't even do it, man.
Hey, listen, it sounded like a good shot at the very least. I'll take the risk. What
All right, round 5. They had a slew of picks in round 5. So Darius Rush, cornerback, South Carolina. Daniel Scott, safety, California. Will Mallory, tight end, Miami. Evan Hull, running back, Northwestern. And round 6, Titus Leo, linebacker, Wagner. And round 7, Jalen Jones, cornerback, Texas A&M. And Jake with offensive tackle, Northern Michigan. Now, I'll say I figured they would draft a couple offensive tackles or maybe dabble into that realm because, of course, their man from last year, he had his struggles a little bit and, they were doing the line shuffle all year. So I figured there might be some dips into that. So I'm not going to ask CeeLo because I already know he loves a particular gentleman. And I know he's going to comment on that in a minute. I'm going to ask the arch enemy of the Colts in this room this question. What do you think? I'm coming to you, P. Shark. Looking at what they got, looking at what they didn't have last year, who do you think was the best weapon that they picked up or the best piece that they drafted on this year's draft?
It feel like I'm gonna choose a wide receiver. I used to be a wide receiver when I played football, so that's not the reason. But Josh Downs, they traded up right above us. They're right. And, I have my eye on Josh Downs, man, for the Titans. And I swear I see the Colts pop up and take. I'm like, golly. So yeah, Josh Downs, the name that jumps off the screen to me. The man is quick, got the speed, and they already got the tall guys on the outside. So you just need the speedster in the slot. They were to replace Paris Campbell and hopefully stay healthy for him. Yeah, Josh Downs is the one who jumps off the screen to me.
All right. Well, I want to ask CeeLo if you want to go ahead and drop them some closing comments on Josh Downs. I know that was your guy that you saw in the draft for the Colts.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy. I was shocked actually that we got Josh Downs because what we know from Ballard over the past 6 years, he doesn't really take receivers that are under 6 foot. Whether it's a slot receiver or outside receiver. So to me, it kind of felt like a Shane Steichen pick, which I'm not mad at it at all. Josh Downs 5'9", 170, but the man plays like Quentin Johnston, the receiver from TCU. Josh Downs plays like he's 6'3". Quentin Johnston plays like he's 5'9". So I love the pick. I love the pick of Josh Downs. I mean, but that's not my favorite pick though. Like that one wasn't my favorite pick, but I love that we got him.
All right. Now we're going to talk about the best pick. We gave that to you, P. Shark, but I'm going to give this one to you, CeeLo. Well, no. I'm going to go to Kyle on this one. I'm going to let Kyle have this one. Questionable pick for the Colts, Kyle. Looking at all those picks, I mean, there were a lot of them, but, not as many as Jacksonville, but there were a lot of them.
We're going to do that.
We'll get into that one, too. I mean, but, half of them probably would be practice squad players or thanks for coming and goodbye. But which one on this team do you think, on this draft, do you think for the Colts is kind of a questionable pick for them? If you, just taking a look at it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and it's not so much the player, but I mean, Julius Brents, I like that they addressed corner at the second round, but part of me feels like that the edge should have been a bit more of a concern. Now, granted, for me, this is more of a philosophy thing. What are the 3 most important things, right? Quarterback, protect the quarterback, and get the other guy's quarterback. And for whatever it's worth, with what's going on in that division, where guys are rather the teams are going away from this being a run heavy division, right? The running backs are the big deal. Derrick Henry's aging. We don't know what's going on with Jonathan Taylor, whether he'll come back from injury well or any of that. And now, by the way, they have a fresh new toy in Anthony Richardson. The identity of this division's changing, and I think the edge is going to become a greater impact than it's been in the past. Listen, last year, teams were drafting to stop 2 big running backs if they're not, or even if they are actually, in this division, accounting for Taylor and Henry. And then also the committee, by the way, in Jacksonville, they ain't half bad either. With all that in mind, this identity of the division as a whole is changing. And while I do like a corner on defense does address that in the passing game, completely granted. But for me, I would like to see them go for an edge in the second. Overall, the draft I like, but that's the spot that kind of jumps out to me immediately.
Okay. So anybody else got some thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I was going to say one thing about the Brents pickup. To me, it made sense just because of our cornerback room outside of what's his name, Kenny Moore and Isaiah Rodgers. There's nothing. Like it's bare, especially because we traded away Stephon Gilmore. If we didn't trade Stephon, then I would think that, corner would be addressed a little bit later, like we did, in the 5th round or whatever. But because of that, I think, and then also I feel that pick was kind of a makeup from last year where we missed out on Tariq Woolen. And I think that's, you wanted to get another freakish athlete at corner. And Julius Brents is one of those. Then let me see. I guess my questionable pick was Will Mallory, because our tight end room is stacked. So to me, that was our questionable pick. I love it because I'm a Hurricane fan, so I get to watch our tight end play on my favorite NFL team. So I'm not mad at it. It's just kind of questionable because I don't know what the direction is at that position going forward, especially with the young guys that we have in Kylan Granson, Jelani Woods, Andrew Ogletree when he comes back from injury. And stuff like that. So that was just kind of surprising to me. But, like Kyle said, other than that, I think we had a really good draft personally. We addressed a lot of needs. We came in with 9 picks and we ended with 12. So
that's the financiers pick, Silu. That's the one where they're drafting a guy in case one of these other guys gets a big contract or has the lead because they can't afford it, man. I hear you, Will. Those are definitely depth picks, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so overall thoughts. You want to give a grade for them, Kyle?
I'm going to go B here. I thought this was a really good draft. Love them going for Anthony Richardson and learning, hey, we missed a chance to beat the Bills in the playoffs a number of years ago because old man Rivers couldn't run up the middle. You and I talked about that on your show, Mike. I mean, come on. So they finally accounted for the fact that everybody and their brother, literally people who work at Fox, Michael Vick, Kurt Menefee, Jay Glazer, Jimmy Johnson, all think that movement is essential at the quarterback position. I had a chance to ask them personally. What can I say? There's a 3-point conversion drop for you. But the punchline's this. And now that they're actually catching up to this part of the state of the art at the quarterback position, love every minute of it. And I could break that down more, how people are going to hate on him being from Florida, but that's a whole other question.
Okie dokie. All right. P Shark, what's your grade?
I give him a B+. I mean, you have 12. You start with 9 and you end with 12 draft picks. You can afford to miss. You got 12 picks. Hey, that's a lot of players to be able to draft. And the reason I don't give it an 8 is the edge rusher. That's for them not to spend any pick on the edge rusher. I think that was one of the bigger weaknesses. I know Kwity Paye's going to his 2nd or 3rd year. I know they expect him to get better, but I would have thought that they would have added another edge rusher. That's the only reason I left them just short of an A-.
All right. CeeLou, what's your final grade for him?
So I give us like an A-. And the reason that is I understand where y'all are coming from with the edge, but free agency, we addressed some of that with adding Sampson from the 49ers, which he's, in my opinion, he's an upgrade over Yannick because just what he can do in the run game. Yannick wasn't really that effective in the run game, and we could probably get the same production from him as well in the passing game with a better run defender. So I'm cool with that. Double A, he's versatile. He can play outside, he can play inside. And then we drafted Titus Leo. I don't know what he's going to be, but they really like him. Defensive end out of Wagner. He's versatile as well. He played a little bit of linebacker, a little bit of corner, a bunch of different positions, which is crazy because then he moved to defensive end his last 2 years. That's crazy to me. But so that's kind of why I'm there with the A-. We added a lot of depth in places that we didn't necessarily have depth at. And we added some guys that will be potential starters. Blake Freeland, athletic freak at offensive tackle, which is crazy too. Out of BYU. And we'll see what comes with Jake Witt because he's supposed to be some type of athletic freak too. He was a former tight end and all of that stuff too. So one thing I can say, they do love their offensive tackles to be athletic and get out there in space. So I'm enjoying that. But yeah, that's where I'm gonna go. One thing I didn't like that we didn't address offensive guard in the draft, but we did go ahead and get the Alabama guard, Emil. I can't say his last name, but we got him from Alabama. So I did like that pickup as a undrafted free agent. And we didn't address linebacker, but we'll see what happens with that because I do think our linebacker room is kind of slim, especially because we don't know what's gonna come from Shaq.
All right. Well, hey, still, not that bad a draft. Did address some needs, but we're going to address some needs too, pay these bills. So we're going to go to a quick commercial break and we'll be right back on Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton.
Whether it's local or long distance, Milligan Logistics has you covered. Milligan Logistics was established in 2020 with over a combined 15 years of experience in trucking, hauling, and logistics, along with over 50 years collectively of project management experience. Again, whether it's near or far, Milligan Logistics has you covered with quality service, efficiency while taking pleasure in exceeding clients' expectations. Need goods moved short or long distance? Milligan Logistics has you covered. Just reach out to them at 615-354-2618. That's 615-354-2618. Or you can send them an email at milliganlogistics@gmail.com. Again, that's milliganlogistics@gmail.com.
And we're back. We are halfway through our draft review. And of course, we were talking about the Tennessee Titans next. I could not do this without bringing on someone who goes over draft prospects, did it for all teams in the NFL, as well as he's a fan of a particular team, like Mr. P. Sharp. Let me bring on Mr. Cortland Griffin. What's going on, man? You gotta take yourself off mute though, but I got you. There you go.
Sorry,
there you go.
Sorry, I was late, man. I'm ready though. Oh man, this is it's gonna be fun, man. Last year was fun. This should be definitely fun again this year.
All right. Well, I will tell you that we did talk about the Colts. We did talk about the Texans so far, but you came in just in time to talk about your particular favorite team. That would be the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Tennessee Titans going into this draft. Before the draft, Vrabel had said, I want to be the fastest team in the NFL. But, in order to get to the fastest team in the NFL, you kind of have to be a little bit better on the offensive line. Now, the offensive line has been an issue for the Tennessee Titans this past season. Derrick Henry getting touched in the backfield and having to do all these different things to get like 5 yards. But I believe that this draft pick that they picked up in the first round is something that is going to add to the physical nature of this team. That would be Mr. Peter Skoronski. He was a 5-star recruit that ended up going to Northwestern. Now, do you hear that happen very much? No, you don't. But he's a very versatile offensive lineman, can play guard or tackle. And, in his words, he wants to run the football all up and down the field and move people against their will, which that sounds like an offensive lineman I would want on my team any day. Cortland, I'm gonna come straight to you. What do you think of this pick for the Titans?
I think it was a great pick. I had Peter Skoronski graded as my third best tackle on the board. A lot of experts outside of myself had him graded as the second best overall tackle and the second best offensive lineman in the entire draft. I did think just because of arm lengthwise, that DeJuan Jones was a little bit better. But Skoronski is, when you look at footwork, you look at his ability to pass block and run block, like you said, versatility, play inside or outside. The Titans struggled with both. Taylor Lewan was, of course, hurt, and then Dennis Daly had to step in, and we saw how that panned out for us. One of the things about being a faster, quote unquote, faster team is not always 40 times. It's also about youth. Skoronski, I think, is around 22 years old. So now you're going to get some mileage out of that body. And I think he fits in and slots in at left tackle immediately. Some people say guard. I think he still can play tackle. I compared him to Donald Penn. Donald Penn played tackle for 13 years in the NFL with 33-inch arms. I think a guy with 32 and 1/8-inch arms can still play tackle in this league. I graded this out as an A.
Okay. All right. Well, one thing I will say is I think what's going to happen is he's going to play left tackle. Petit Ferrer is going to be a guard. You got Brewer at center. You're going to have now I'm forgetting the other guard. But anyway, you probably have Brunskill. You probably have Brunskill at the other guard, and then you'll have Dillard at the tackle. So it's going to be 3 of the 5 are going to be new up there.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to let you know this, man. It was another guy picked up in this draft that I think a lot of people are going to be excited about.
We go. Hey, hold up. Before you get there, you know what person we do have to talk about now. We got to do it. Now, In the second round, we're gonna talk. No, I'm gonna give the whole spiel of who they drafted. So we're gonna go through that first. Then I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. CeeLo. All right. The rest of the picks were round 2, number 33, Will Levis, Kentucky. Put a pin in that. We're gonna go back there. All right, round 3, 81st overall pick. We got Spears from running back from Tulane. He of no ACL, so think Frank Gore. Same boat. All right, you got in the 5th round. They didn't have a 4th round pick. 5th round, you got Josh Wiley, tight end, Cincinnati. Like the pickup. Round 6, 186, Jalen Duncan, offensive tackle, Maryland. And round 7, pick number 228, Colton Dow from the University of Tennessee at Martin, the Fighting Skyhawks. Yeah, I'm a former UT Martin Skyhawk, by the way. Yeah, but by the way, but yeah, that was all the draft picks that they had. Now, see, Lou, I know a particular gentleman was talking to you about Mr. Will Levis and going to your team, but he kind of ended up on his team. So, Mr. C. Lou, I'm going to kind of turn the floor over to you to kind of ask him a question about how he feels about Mr. Will Levis. The floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, Cortland, he had put out a mock draft. I want to say like a day before the draft. It might have been the same day the draft was starting. It was like number 4, Colts taking Will Levis. I told him, I said, nah, it ain't happening. And then they was going to trade up and get Will. They was going to trade up and get Will. But I don't think it's a bad pick. I really don't. A lot of people have been hard on Will Levis. And while I understand, because there are some things that he is really not good at. One of the things is I don't feel like he's good at sensing pressure, especially off the backside. I don't think he's really mastered that yet. And at the age of he'll be 24 when the season starts. I think that's a big thing. Like, he doesn't have that clock in his head. And I don't know if you can ever develop that. I'm not sure. But if he does, I think Will Levis is going to be really good. He has the monster arm. He can make all the throws. He's fairly accurate. And then also against the blitz, while he was at Kentucky, he was probably one of the most accurate quarterbacks against the blitz. And we know that he's tough. He played through a lot of those injuries last year, sometimes to the detriment of the team. But he played through those injuries. I still question if he'll show up in the big games because I didn't really see that in college. But I think if Tennessee develops him and they actually work to develop him, I think he'll be good. I feel like they didn't do that for Malik Willis, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing now. But if they actually put the foot forward to actually develop their quarterback, I think he'll be good for the Tennessee Titans, and I think AFC South is going to be crazy in the next few years, man.
Cortland, any rebuttal? Any talk back?
Man, I was messing with Steve. Man, me and C. Lou go back and forth on Twitter and Twitter After Dark. That's my dog, though, man. Probably the only Colts fan I respect. But
I'm gonna tell Meg on you.
No, I respect that. But I agree with them. I know I had my reservations about Will Levis. Seeing him play against Vanderbilt here in Nashville, of course, it kind of. Maybe some of that it was a little bit of fandom, but the expert in me says I believe what C. Lou is saying, right? Development is a big thing. Some guys, I'm gonna say this too. Some guys have it, some guys don't. I like Malik. Gave him a nickname last year. Music City Malik. But the thing is I just don't think just seeing Malik Willis and how he operated in the offense, I don't think he has it quite yet. And it just that's not a knock to him. Some guys develop it later on in their careers. I think Will Levis is coming in. He has it. I seen the fire on the field. I just think he's one of those guys who hasn't quite put it all together. Like C. Lou said, he was one of the best college quarterbacks against the rush. He's also very accurate against Alabama. He made some throws that on tape pop off the screen for you. Tight NFL window throws. He has the arm to do it. So now I think looking at, and they compared him to Carson Wentz, I compare him to the guy who's already on the roster for the Titans in Ryan Tannehill, except for this guy's played quarterback his entire career, not wide receiver converted over to quarterback. So I think learning from that guy, Ryan Tannehill did some very good things before this past season. Of course, and of course that AFC semifinals game where he threw 4 interceptions. But you know, what I'm saying the good things that he did do was work off the play action, roll out the pocket, get mobile when he needs to be mobile, and make the good plays. Make the plays when he needs to make the play. He does also stand in the face of pressure. I've seen Ryan Tannehill stand under fire and deliver shots after shot after shot while taking a hit. Will Levis does that very well as well. So I think we should give the young man a chance. Somebody made the joke on Twitter. They gave Jake Locker a chance. They gave Malik Willis a chance. They gave Vince Young a chance. The Titans are just a team full of chance givers, right? And that's great. It's worked out for us sometimes, and sometimes it's burned us. I think Will Levis, though, give him a fair shake, man. The kid is coming in. He's fired up. He has a chip on his shoulder now. Because it was a 99.9% chance he doesn't fall out the first round, and he did. So, you know, so he has a chip on his shoulder. I'm happy to see that he's with the team, and I'm happy that he's a Titan now. The expert in me didn't see him going here just because of the necessity that other teams felt. I didn't feel like the Titans needed a quarterback this year immediately with Ryan Tannehill on the roster. But I'm happy he's here. So he gets a chance to learn up under Ryan and going to next year, 2024, with the possibility of getting Marvin Harrison Jr. Yes, I'm calling it right here and now.
All right. What I will say about this one is, you know, I had questions about them because, you know, who eats mayonnaise and coffee, you know, and bananas whole, just eating them. You know, that right there had me a little questionable about Mr. Will Levis right there. But you know, we'll see what happens. But I know P. Shark's got some comments, man. Hey, you know, overall, you know, which one? I'll throw this one to. I'll throw this one to you, Kyle. What do you think which one is your favorite pick out of these, outside of, you know, the Will Levis and the number 1 pick for the Titans?
Yeah, I mean, because you know, with my breed, I'm going to give Skronsky his respect. But listen, I'm not going to claim that I called any of this happening. Even though a mock draft of which Cortland was a member called Will Levis falling out of the first round when he was part of the student of the game real mock draft. But I won't rub that in any further than I have. We tried to tell you, you just wouldn't listen. I'm going to give Tyjae Spears a little bit love because I know there's a lot of concern around the whole ACL situation, and I get that. But the reason why I'm less worried about it is he's going to be carrying this offense much less than he did when he was in Tulane and eventually ended up getting an American Conference championship. Now, granted, the third time, or rather the second time, was the charm, as they beat UCF in a rematch, which I obviously covered, you know, doing my thing for the black and gold banneret. But what I notice about him where he's going to be really well employed is in places away from the run scheme. Think Deebo Samuel, except not big. So he'll be out there trying to do action in the slot. He's going to be a receiving threat in my mind, far more than they're going to use him between the tackles, which would kind of put him in a position to have less wear and tear. Now, I get it. No ACL, the Frank Gore situation, it's always scary to see it at first, but not getting this guy until round 3, in my mind, that's an excellent value, and I liked it a lot.
Okay. All right. Now, P. Shark, you've been waiting. You've been patient. Questionable pick out of these picks, and I'm going to let you kind of have your moment to say what you think about this draft for the Titans. The floor is yours.
Questionable pick. The quarterback, Will Levis, is the questionable pick. Easily. But I would say this. I'm going to give him opportunity. I'm not comparing him to Justin Herbert, but when Justin Herbert was in college, he didn't show up in big games either. And I didn't believe in Justin Herbert being what he became in the NFL. And I see him now, I'm like, wow, because I didn't see that in college. I saw the potential. I saw the intangibles. The same thing with Will Levis. So if he could be Justin Herbert, hey, prove me wrong. I love it. I love to see that. But he's my question mark. But I do like the idea of competition. I do like the idea that Malik Willis is still on the roster, that him and Will Levis will compete against each other. And I do believe that could bring the best out of Malik Willis as well. And that could provide him a real opportunity as well. So you can say, hey, maybe we wasted a pick on the quarterback back-to-back years. Well, that was the old GM. It's a new GM. Right. You got a new GM. So, of course, he was going to try and pick his guy. And Malik Willis got a chance, the opportunity to prove himself against who the GM perceived to be as his guy. So, Question, like I said, I question the pick, but I'm not the fan that's gonna say I'm not a fan of the team. I'm not about to say it's over with. These players still got to play. They all about to be rookies. They just getting drafted. I'm not that type of person, so I'm definitely give Will Levis his chance. Although I am a Tennessee Vols fan, I watched him throw for less than 100 yards and 3 picks against one of the worst passing defense in the NFL last year. So of course I'm gonna question it. But going back to Kyle's point on Tajay Spears, AAC, you know, I'm living Memphis Tigers. We play against Tulane every year. Tajay Spears told us up. Tore us up last year, and I saw him later all throughout the season. The Rose Bowl against USC, so I did like that pick. And see, I saw the medicals, but like Kyle said, I believe he's gonna be utilized on the outside and as a slot threat, as receiver and a running back. So I think he's gonna provide a lot of versatility. The tight end Joshua Alley, great pickup in Cincinnati. Love the pick. We definitely need another tight end. Another question mark: we didn't take a wide receiver until the 7th round, and wide receiver is a huge need for the team, but we only had 6 picks. You can't plug all your holes in only 6 picks anyway.
I'll say this. You know, Colton Dow, UT Martin Skyhawks. He did kind of dominate a little bit against UT when they played. He had his. He did his thing.
He had 100 yards. He
did his thing. You know what I'm saying? I got to pump up my former Skyhawk. You know what I'm saying? I got to pump him up. So you know. But I'll say this. You know, you do have from the touring the AFC South End box, we got Corey Jackson in there, and he definitely is a fan of the Levis move. So Levis may have max 1 year sitting, and he will be a stud. So hey, there you go. And then also he said about picking up Skoronski, run left 2.0. There you go. Enough said. All right. Anyone want to give an overall grade? I'm gonna go to you first, CeeLo.
Yeah, you had to come to me first.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta go to the enemy first. The enemy of the Titans is the Colts. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I like the first 3 picks. Well, actually, the first 4 picks. But I am like, you know, a little upset they didn't take a receiver earlier. I'll probably give them a B+. And that's just because they didn't take a receiver earlier, and I feel like they could have got better value at receiver if they would have took one earlier in the draft. But again, like P Shark said, they only had 6 picks. Can't address everything with 6 picks. So yeah.
It is what it is. All right. Kyle, give me a quick grade for him.
Yeah, it's going to be a B- for me. I know that the concern is receiver, but again, that's somewhat addressed with Spears. You know, think a Shady McCoy, Brian Westbrook-esque type, I think, making an impact there. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay. Corlin.
I'm going A. Nobody talked about the guy that I was going to talk about. It wasn't Will Levis. It's actually Jalen Duncan. Somebody said run left 2.0, but that guy balances out this offensive line. I think Andre Dillon is going to be in a dogfight for that right tackle position with Jalen Duncan, who was a 2nd round graded tackle before the ankle injury at the combine. So shout out to that guy, man. Shout out to Rand Carthon for grabbing him in the 6th round. So I give it an A for addressing needs. And like I said, wide receiver, it was a need, and I was a little upset, but it's a big crop coming out next year, and it's a good crop coming out next year.
I'll say this about the wide receiver. You know, you do want to pick up a wide receiver, although I will say if Kyle Phillips is healthy, that's your slot guy. You do have Traylon Burks still there. You did bring in Chris Moore, so you're depending on him to kind of pick up where he left off in Houston. And you still, I believe, have Racey McMath out there. And if Racey McMath would have stayed healthy last year, he probably would have contributed a lot more than what he did. But P Shark, I'm going to give you the last grade, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah, I give it a solid B. Like I said, I still question the Will Levis pick, but giving him a B lets me know, like, it gives me an opportunity for him to prove me wrong, and this draft to really become an A, like Courtney said.
All right. Hey, all I can say is, you know, they drafted Jake Locker, Marcus Mariota, Vince Young. They've had a few quarterbacks that haven't hit. So, you know, maybe this one will actually be the one that hits and stays for a while in terms of a draft pick, not necessarily a free agent guy. Last wide receiver the last quarterback I can think of course, who all of us can think of, that would be Mr. Steve Air McNair. There you go. But moving on, last but certainly not least, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They didn't have as many holes as all the other teams did, but they definitely do have some to fill. One of those, offensive line. Now, plenty will say they won the division. They did well. But, Cam Robinson's hurt and Walker Little. Me and Kyle have our little joke about Walker Little, but we'll say that for another time. But, they were slated to be the offensive tackles for the team. Now, you would think they would bring in competition for Walker Little, since Walker Little is a guy who was a backup last year. Well, as it turns out, Cam Robinson's probably going to be facing a multiple game suspension to start the season. So with that being the case, they drafted an offensive tackle. That would be Mr. Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma was allergic to defense, but hey, they did score on offense this year. So what do you think of that pick, Kyle?
Here's the thing, and this kind of draws back to, last year I was complaining that they extended Cam Robinson and didn't adjust to tackle in that draft last year. And now we're seeing that. Forget about the suspension, General. The chances of Cam Robinson finishing a season are low. He hasn't done it in the past 3 years that I can remember. He's going to miss time. It's basically, it's as inevitable as Thanos thinks he is, right? Okay. When it comes to that, he is going to miss time, and you have to account for that. Fortunately, they have Walker Little. Now, this suspension, one can argue they're just missing the time on the front end rather than the back end. No problem. I like the concept of addressing the position nonetheless, because you can't have enough beef. Okay, listen, the vegetarians are out west, and for as long as the Chargers struggled with a bad line until lately, we can talk all about that later, but this isn't that division of show. This is the AFC South. I like the Anton Harrison pick, addressing that, being cornered from that standpoint. And I don't think addressing needs a single problem as far as this Jacksonville Jaguar draft. For me, there were too many better concepts available at that spot for me to really feel like this was the right pick. I mean, there's a reason Joey Porter Jr. is now, for example, following in his dad's footsteps. Somebody the Jaguar space were clamoring for and would feel lucky to get at 24 and was there at 27, and they still said no. I like them moving the draft value around to get more picks. I like that they're thinking of the future, of the fact that this team is in cap hell. But while the first round's acceptable, the next, I will say 2 of them were downright horrible as far as addressing need and what they actually needed to do. But I'm sure we'll get to that a little bit more in this segment.
Oh, we definitely will. But, as always, can we really talk about, is Walker going to play little this year? Is Walker going to play little?
I mean, he didn't against Mike Patton,
we always got to talk about that. We've been saying that one ever since Walker Little started. So, yeah. Right. But I will say that the Jacksonville Jaguars got more picks than Parker Brothers have games. They basically did. But we're going to go over that real quick. So round 2, Brenton Strange, tight end, Penn State. Round 3, Tank Bigsby. Hey, I kind of like that pick, to be honest. Even though they did, sign Dearness Johnson to be the backup. But that's another story. And then he drafted, they got Albert Connor last year from Kentucky. But a whole other story. Or was that Mississippi? It's Ole Miss. It's Ole Miss, actually. All right, round 4, you got Ventrell Miller, linebacker, Florida, and Tyler Lacey, defensive end, Oklahoma State. Round 5, you got Yasir Abdullah, linebacker from Louisville, and Antonio Johnson, safety from Texas A&M. Kind of like him when he plays. When he's got his head on straight out there, he's pretty solid. All right, you've got round 6, Parker Washington, wide receiver from Penn State. He probably won't play. You've got Christian Braswell, DB from Rutgers. Now, going back to Parker Washington, he's probably going to be in a practice squad because they're DB wide receiver. Let's see. As far as 208, in the 6th round, Eric Hallett II, defensive back from Pitt. Pitt had a lot of defensive backs picked up, but were they even great defensively? I digress. We'll go to the next one. But round 7, Cooper Hodges, guard, Appalachian State. 227, they picked Raymond. I'm going to butcher that man's last name, so I'm just going to say Raymond B. All right, for North Carolina. And for pick number 240, Derek Parrish, fullback in Houston. Yes, they drafted a freaking fullback. It probably is not going to play, but maybe 10 snaps the entire year. Kyle, now before I talk about this round 7 pick on a fullback that ain't going to play but maybe 10 snaps, what do you think? No. Actually, I'm going to address this from the CeeLo. I'm going to come back to you, Kyle.
I'll go. I got an answer, but fire away.
but I'm going to talk about that fullback. We're going to come back to that one because me, that's the most questionable pick. But CeeLo, out of all these picks, and like I said, they had more picks than Parker Brothers had games. Out of all these picks, which one do you think is the best one for them? I know you got a lot to choose from.
Yeah. So there's actually two. I like the Anton Harrison pick, but then I also like the Antonio Johnson pick. I actually wanted him for the Colts, but we drafted Daniel Scott instead of him, which is cool. But I wanted him for the Colts, and I think, like you said, when he's playing with his head on straight, the boy makes plays. Like he's always around the ball, and everything. So I think that might be. Those two for me might be their best picks. The rest of them, it just looks like they just was depth pieces, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely depth pieces and practice squad pieces at that. Maybe camp. You hear of camp arms, stuff like that. You got camp legs with some of these guys, to be honest. They're probably just going to be guys like, hey, instead of you going all season doing all these different things and running around in shorts and all that stuff, why don't you run around the helmet on, stuff like that? Maybe train for the track team somewhere else or something like that, and then we're gonna cut you at the end. You get you a nice check out of it though, but we're gonna cut you at the end. That's what I kind of feel like with a lot of the players that they drafted. I see maybe half of these players actually making the team because the chances of 12 draft picks playing on an NFL team, slim and none, to be honest. Now, questionable pick. Now, I said it again. I'm going to say it again. Now, if this fullback can be Kyle Juszczyk, then I will eat every word I said. But I don't quite envision this fullback being Kyle Juszczyk. So, Kyle, tell me if I'm wrong. Is he the questionable pick to you, or do you have another one?
It's funny you're using in your example citing a 49ers fullback, but my response starts with a different 49ers fullback, and it's a bit of a double thing here for me because he wore black and gold before he wore red and gold. Now, granted, it was off the field issues that got him out of the league, but I refer to one Bruce Miller. I know it's been some time. Maybe some of you guys were barely even born. We're barely even born before Bruce Miller played, but I can tell you this: he started out at UCF before playing fullback as a edge rusher. Now, if you're going to look at the holes on defense that the Jacksonville Jaguars are trying to address, it is corner and edge rusher. And by the way, in their current running backfield, they don't really have a guy that would bring that power. In the Houston, on Houston's roster, he's listed as a DL/fullback. And if you can get a guy that's a utility guy that can play more than one position in the 7th round, that potential value shows a lot more savvy than some of these other picks. Surely, by any stretch of the imagination, Tank Bigsby, when you're already 4 deep at running back and have been running by committee for some time, is far more bad than this 7th round pick, General. I'm sorry.
I hear you there. Hey, maybe it's just because I saw Tank Bigsby play. I think he'll do something. But
I'm not saying he's a bad player. But why? You had it with the corners and the needs and the edge and Arden Key and come on.
Yeah, well, I totally understand. But hey, at least you drafted another guard to kind of help out the offensive line depth because boy, oh boy. Oh, hold on. Time out. I can't believe I went this far and didn't even say it. Oh, my goodness. Can't even believe I went this far and didn't even say it. I'm mad at myself. But if you look at Jacksonville, I still think about them as the donut defense. Now, I'm going to break it down for those that have not heard me say this. Donuts are all got solid on the outside, and in the middle they have nothing. Now, I will say, the Jacksonville Jaguars still have issues stopping the run. Now, I would say Olaquan definitely helps that, but they still can be spotty there. I'm surprised they did not draft a defensive tackle. Come on, Kyle. I know you thought about it.
Certainly would have been better than running back at that spot. No offense again to Tank Bixby. I don't want to bring up any bad will before I head over to TIAA Bank Stadium for sure. But like, I don't listen. I'm not going to try to get in the way of Doug Peterson, what he's doing. Their GM. Okay, if you want me to get in the way of their current GM for ruining me and Mike's team,
don't do it. Don't do it.
I'm just saying I got no problem talking trash there. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, no, hey, I'm with you. They do address edge. They do address corner, which I thought were their biggest needs. But yeah, the defensive tackle even would have been a better choice in a lot of cases. And you could tell, I got that same feeling. They're trying to just, hey, we need corners. Let's just get as many as we think look good. Maybe one will hit, and they did the same with the edge. So to try to fill that donut hole. But at the end of the day, you need substantial dough to do that. Just saying.
Yeah, it's kind of like they put a blindfold on, like, hey, we're going with this corner and that corner and this corner. Maybe I hit a target on one of them. But hey, it is what it is. But I want to open up the floor. Anyone else have any kind of questionable picks or anything you can see on their draft board or who they drafted? Cortland, go ahead.
I was going to talk about the Parker Washington. I think this was the greatest game of keep away I've ever seen in my life. Like, because Parker Washington was one of the guys, and C. Lucas, like, I was on Twitter all day. Like, every time a receiver fell down the board, I was like, all right, these are the guys that left the Titans should pick up. Parker Washington was literally, like, falling down the board, tumbling down. I'm like, he's a perfect guy. 5'11", 205, great yak guy, solid hands, played in the cold, like, and was very productive after Dotson had left and playing that number one spot. And then what happens? Like, I'm like, why did y'all draft? Like, as soon as Jacksonville drafted, I was like, bro. And then Houston did the same thing with Xavier Hutchinson. So it was like, this is the greatest game we'll keep away by the Jaguars. It's questionable because, like you said, I don't think he's going to play. Like, Calvin Ridley's back. Christian Kirk, you got him. They traded Laviska Shenault because he was the odd man out last year. And then I think
you got Bruce Leroy. You got Bruce Leroy there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it also helps that Laviska couldn't catch the ball either, but that's a whole other.
Zay Jones.
Yeah, it's Bruce Leroy.
Yeah, Zay Jones. So, like, it's like, dang, bro. Like, y'all picked a receiver that probably will never see the field. And the great thing about this is they're going to have to cut some of these guys. And don't be surprised if that cut market has a lot of these guys that got cut by other teams end up on division rivals.
You're not wrong. I would say this, though, for the Washington concept, if they have a good athlete there and they see what they see, first of all, someone's going to want to get paid even more soon in that core. So as much as we talk about that, if he's a project, it would be good for them to consider having Washington do some action, returning and in special teams, because that was certainly not their greatest moment there with, Agnew missing time that he did. And now it's not really a concept there. So I would say Washington's kind of meant to account for that. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, just to your point, he may just as likely be out during camp there too.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see what happens. Overall grades. I'm going to go to UP Shark first.
I'd give him a solid A-. You have 13 picks. You're going to hit on some of these, right? I think getting a second tight end and Strange from Penn State, I did like they pick up a lot. Getting another tackle, they picked up a lot of depth pieces, a lot of pieces that helped them. The Jaguars are still a young team, so they still need to pretty much fill out the roster to, remain the division winners.
I want to see what Ventrell Miller does because, of course, they drafted 2 linebackers in the first 2 rounds, and they turn around and draft another linebacker in round 4. So that'll be interesting in its own right. But I digress again. They have more picks than Parker Brothers have games. I know I said that a couple times, but I just want to stress the impact of how many picks they had. See, Lou, what's your grade for them?
Yeah, I give them a B-. They had a lot of picks. I mean, a lot of these dudes going to end up on a practice squad. I don't really understand the Tank Bigsby pick. Like Kyle has been saying, they have a lot of running backs already. Like you have Jermichael Hasty, you still have ETN, and then you have Dearness Johnson. Yeah, mm-hmm. So I mean, I really didn't understand that. They did address some depth for inside backer, like you said, Ventrell Miller. and then your Seer Abdullah on outside backer on the edge. So I mean, they addressed some things, but I feel like they left a lot to be desired with all these picks. They left a lot to be desired. So yeah, I'm giving them a B- on that.
Okay. All right. And let's see. Did I get your grade, Kyle, for your team?
You did not, sir. But listen, I appreciate these members of the Salvation Army for being so charitable with their B- and A. It's a C, folks. You had opportunities to do way better than you did in the top part of the draft, and you blew it. You listen. I know that hurricanes come into Florida a lot, but the wind let loose to blow these picks. You weren't even in Kansas City. You were nowhere near a tornado. I'm completely baffled by the Tank Bigsby pick. I did not appreciate their choice of tight end. I would make an argument of how much of a need that actually was. It's further down the list, but no, was not very happy at all with their first 3 rounds. And then you start to hit a little late. That's cute. You hit all the needs. You're going to have guys competing. That's all wonderful. But at the end of the day, no, I can't do better than a C. And they're only getting that because, like I said, they address the needs and they have some utility value in that round 7 pick there, General.
There we go. Yeah, utility man, that 7th pick. Okay, we're gonna roll with that one. But anyway, overall thoughts on the draft for the AFC South teams. I mean, who would you? I mean, we probably unanimously say that Houston had the best draft, correct?
Yep.
For sure.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So,
other than Jags had the worst one. That's my.
Oh boy, the way people throw the Titans up under the bus, you may think they had the worst one, but hey, we'll see what happens. Of course, the draft is all about picking and thinking what you need and things like that. So we'll see how these picks develop. We'll keep an eye on those, and with the Jacksonville Jaguars and all the picks that they have, we're gonna have a who you with contest with them. To see, like, basically throw names out there and say who you with, because they probably are not all going to be with the Jacksonville Jaguars when the season starts, just to put that out there. But, we've reached the end of the show, the draft special. I want to thank everyone for coming on. That'd be Mr. P. Shark, Mr. C. Lou, Cortland Griffin, and Kyle Nash. I want to start off with P. Shark. Tell everyone where they can find you, what are you working on, and the great material you got coming, because boy, oh boy, I've got the popcorn ready for that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course, man. Follow me on Twitter at @DAONE_P Shark on Twitter and Instagram. Also follow my network, Let's Be Real Media, on YouTube, Let's Be Real Media, and on all social media platforms, LBR_media. Also, you're a basketball fan, Grizzlies podcast, Starting 5 podcast for Blood City Media. We are actually recording tonight and dropping it tonight. So you're going to hear about us, talk about the Grizzlies season recap and what's coming up this offseason. Tune in there as well.
Oh boy, I'm over here rubbing my hands like Birdman. But C. Lou, you're up next, man. Tell everyone where they can find you and what all you working on, man.
Yeah, y'all can find me on Twitter at DropBallsPod. Still got the podcast, Dropballs Podcast. Getting back to it, but we definitely gonna get some more content out here soon. Also started my own thing, Horseshoe Pride, where I have a couple people we write, we podcast together, all about the Colts content. So we definitely going to be getting back to it, I believe, this Thursday to talk about the draft and, what we think about the Colts draft this year. But yeah, that's everything for me.
All right. Cortland, you're up next.
Oh, man, you know who it is. It's your boy, Cortland Griffin. You can find me at the Halftime Show. It'll be starting back up next month for sure. We're going to be talking Titans training camp, NFL training camps, a whole bunch of more stuff. Also, you can find me on 3-Point Conversion. My draft grades and draft recap has come out. Also have a Titans draft recap coming out on the site. Should be up today. So go and check that out. Find me on Twitter at @TheCGriffy. Find me on Instagram at @TheCGriffy. I had probably my biggest viral moment during the draft. I actually got Devon Witherspoon's reaction to Jackson Smith-Njigba being drafted, and that video on Twitter is still going up. So if you want to see his reaction to his teammate being drafted, go to my Twitter page, man. That was a big moment for me to be able to see that. Shout out to those young men for being drafted, man. It's gonna be a great time. As always, man. Thanks, Mike, for having me on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Before I get to you, Kyle, I want to say, Cortland, hey, keep doing your thing, man. And definitely, man, enjoy that moment, man. Covering the draft, man. It's always a one-of-a-kind moment. Kyle, certainly last but not least, go ahead, tell everyone where they can find you, what all you up to, and floor is yours.
Hey, listen, an honor, joy, and privilege. Thanks for having me on again. Once doing the thing here on the AFC, touring the AFC South. It's always fun with the general, and of course, P Shark, C. Lou, and Cortland. Thank you all for help making this an awesome show. I had a lot of fun with, of course. I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter at the SOTG. Find me on Instagram as the same, the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game. Check out my writings with the 3-point conversion. Had all the stuff you needed from the XFL regular season, so check that out if you're looking for any recap. A lot of surprises in the playoff games this weekend for those of you that need football that much that you missed the NBA for some whatever reason. That's a whole other question. Of course, my work covering the UCF Knights. That's right. UCF football is going to be a big deal. You'll see on the upcoming Night Shift podcast from the Black and Gold Banneret that we will look over the undrafted free agents, 2 of them, by the way, going to Jacksonville. There'll be some reunited action if all goes well. Hope in camp there. Looking forward for that possibility. So check that out as well. And of course, my work covering the Jacksonville Jaguars with the 3-point conversion in A7BN Sports. By the way, shouts to my guy Dalton Tinklenberg, who was covering the draft as well. I think you came across him, Cortland, and you didn't even realize it. It's pretty funny because he had to. Was there somebody there standing next to Raphael Haynes wearing a 3-point conversion shirt? Yeah. No, dude, you met him. You met Cortland Kuiper Jr. Anyways, an honor, joy, and privilege, guys. I had a lot of fun. Looking forward to the next one. And until next time, class dismissed.
Yeah, well, class isn't quite dismissed on touring the AFC South, but the show is over. But I got to mention myself, though, of course. All right, I'm Mike Patton. You can find me on Twitter, and that's MikePatton 82 on Twitter. And on IG, you can find me at THA, that's the THA _general_MP. Of course, you can find Touring the AFC South on YouTube if you'd like to visually watch the show, where you can watch all the expressions and crazy expressions that we have and maybe the other moments that we have on here. You can also, if you like listening to the show and you're on the move, you can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're there. Thank you all again for tuning in to Touring the AFC South with your host, Mike Patton. We are officially out. Peace.